writing assignments on a test, we know that the very first thing to do is to decide whether we're writing a story or not a story. In the next few lessons, I'd like to talk a little bit about what to do if we're writing not a story. So to begin with, you know if we're writing not a story, that all of our answers are going to come from the text. The next thing you'll have to do, if writing not a story, is to follow the not a story structure. The not a story structure is an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Let's talk today about writing an introduction. When we write an introduction, we need to catch attention. Now, there are a ton of ways that writers can catch attention. I'd like to teach you one way today, and that is the word I'm sure you remember inside the United States Mint from a previous lesson. Let's take a minute to review this text and consider what kind of introduction we could write if given the question, write a persuasive essay to show your teacher how much you would learn on a field trip to one of these facilities. In order to figure out how to start our introduction and what kind of scene we're going to imagine, we return to the test question. In our example, we see that we're writing a persuasive essay about a field trip to the U.S. Mint. Now, you'll be given lines of blank paper on the writing prompt. And I know that I'm going to begin with my introduction, and I want it to go for the first several lines. Just like any other time I write, I'm going to begin with a paragraph. Oh, you know what? This is so important to remember that on a writing test, it doesn't just matter what we write, but it also matters how our handwriting looks. So on a writing test, we have to use proud handwriting. Take a look at this. Now I'm sure you're noticing it's taking me a lot longer to write. And that's okay, because it is important that you use proud handwriting on a writing test. So I have my first line here by using the word imagine and the writing assignment. Imagine going to a United States Mint facility on a class field trip. Now I'm ready to write a little story. So I'm going to think about the things that I know about writing a story. I'm thinking about the things that I would hear if I went to the United States Mint. I know it's all about making coins, so I'm going to write about hearing the coins. Writing this kind of introduction, an imagine introduction, is really about telling a little story right at the beginning. Now I know that I want to stretch my introduction for several lines, so I just asked myself, what else do I know about writing a story? And I remember that I always add talking to stories. So I thought, what would people say at the United States Mint? I've never been there, so I just made something up. One of the reasons why I encourage you to write an imagine introduction is because it lets you start with a little story. And you can stretch that little story in the same way that you stretch all of your stories, by making your characters talk and move. But after you've done that for a few lines, then you need to add your big idea. Because remember, we're writing not a story. So we begin with an imagine introduction, and then we add your big idea. This is called a stance. It's the main idea of your essay. Since I have several lines of my imagine introduction written, I decided it was time to write my big idea. To help me, I looked back at the writing assignment on the test. It says to write a persuasive essay about why the U.S. Mint would be a good place for a field trip. So I used that to write my big idea. On a field trip to the United States Mint facility, our class would learn a lot of interesting information. I'd like to invite you to practice writing an introduction during writing workshop today. See if you can catch attention using imagine. After you stretch the story for a few lines, add your big idea. Happy writing, everyone.